Hello, my dear English speakers who are interested in Arpitan, the language all around Mont Blanc, which people tend to forget, not to be proud enough to use, because slowly but surely the oral tradition is a bit dying out and we have to learn the language again. That's the way I learned the language. I didn't speak it when I was a child, but when I got 42, that is 4 years ago, I started to learn it again from CDs, and I also already had it in my ear, so it was a bit easier for me to learn it. But anyway, that's not an easy task to do when the language isn't really adapted to modern life. That is, the people who speak the language today just adopt the pronunciation of French or of some Italian words into the language. It depends on where they are. If they are in a French-speaking part, mainly French-speaking part, or mainly Italian-speaking part. As you know, Arpitan is spoken on the French territory, on the Swiss, and on the Italian territory. Anyway, so let's answer some questions. Amy has asked me if Amy from Washington, greetings, and I'm very happy somebody from Washington is interested in our language and in studying it. So you've asked me if the language had been written in another way, had been written in a common handwriting before Dominique Stich. And there is this spelling which is called the graphism of Conflans, which is used to transcribe a lot of French dialects of the language. Conflans is written C-O-N-F-L-A-N-S. You'll find it easily. So this was a very good handwriting to transcribe all kinds of sounds. I don't know it personally. I've never needed it. So I don't know if it's able to transcribe really every sound in the language. We have some sounds which are strange in Savier's. For example, the coutin, tsung. This is no as in French, no un. It's something a bit strange, like un, coutin, coutin. So, for example, this sound, I don't know if it exists in other dialects of the language. And this special R, which is no R, I spoke about, vedei, vedei. It's not vedei, it's not verei, it's in the middle, vedei, vedei. So, this sound as well seems quite difficult to transcribe. Of course, phonetic symbols, international phonetic symbols could transcribe it, but many dialects didn't want to adopt these symbols because they are too complicated to write in an everyday life. There was also a kind of meeting not that long ago, but all the same, something like 10 years ago, a meeting of people from the different regions which allowed them to have a kind of declaration that all their dialects should be written in a certain way. But it's been a big debate, and every region, they couldn't really come to terms to find a common phonetic handwriting, because yes, there are some traditions, and we are in a traditional domain, and people who specialize in writing the language. It's already quite painful for them. They haven't learned it at school. There has never been a teaching of writing Franco-Provençal or Arpitan at school, so that's why it's already painful enough for them to write the language, which has always been quite oral, essentially oral. So anyway, that's why they don't want to change. They've just adapted to a handwriting and suddenly they should change. This is too difficult for them. For example, there was the way to write a long vowel with a hat on it, a circumflex accent. This has been suggested. And this is quite useful for Savièse because in Savièse, the linguist who had invented the writing put straight line at the top, a dash above the letter, and this is difficult to imitate with a regular keyboard. In the French keyboard you have a circumflex accent, and this is much easier to put above a letter. So that's it. Amy, you asked another question. Let's move on. A question about if I were ready to make a study for you from a list of words. Of course, this would be quite long because I have to meet the people. They don't live far away, especially in comparison to places in the United States, the ones from the others. But anyway, we're not used to moving along a lot. It would be an opportunity to meet these people, but there's already been a long study which hasn't finished yet, I think, called the Atlas of Franco-Provençal, and they've started it in 2000, I think, already. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but anyway, at the University of Neuchâtel they have started such a study, and people from all different regions of Arpitania have to pronounce all kinds of phrases, and not only pronounce but really give their version of that phrase. That is, possibly they will use a different grammar, a different phrasing. Yes, so it's an exercise of translation from French, free exercise, and they record in video form all these pronunciations, so with transcription and things like that. So it's a very good study. It's in French, so if I did such a study with your help, or if I helped you to do such a study, this would be in English. Why not? This would be interesting, and I could meet these people, and it's quite interesting because some of them are quite old and they have a real lore of the language. They could also record other things for me. We have this Amis du Patois magazine, which comes out every 3 months. It's a very thick book. I could show it to you. And anyway, many texts are there inside this book, but without pronunciation. So I could let some of the writers of the booklet pronounce their text. So there we are. It's my answer, a bit longish. I hope you don't mind. See you around. All the best. Cheers.